collected from the residence, from this search warrant, there were 2 green in color cell phones, 2 bottles of medication.
A horrifying truth is revealed when the FBI makes a surprise appearance at Gene Hackman's estate. Hackman, his wife, and a dog all have been dead for days. What happened? What shocking mystery has the FBI uncovered? Was it a natural death, or is there more to it? Stay tuned to find out the whole truth. The secret raid. Something no one was intended to be aware of at any point. It all began with a surgery that was not mentioned beforehand. During the wee hours of the morning, agents from the Federal Bureau of Investigation discreetly made their way to Hackman's expansive estate in Santa Fe, New Mexico. The only thing that was there was a deliberate and stealthy intrusion. There were no flashing lights or sirens. The occurrence of this event came as a total surprise to people who were close to Hackman. When the FBI broke into the house of a retired actor who was 94 years old, what could be the cause for their actions? But as more information became available, one thing became very evident. Certainly, this was not a typical study. It was speculated that police enforcement had been keeping a close eye on Hackman's estate for a considerable amount of time, maybe even years. Some stories stated that government agencies had intercepted weird messages emanating from the site, while other sources said that Hackman himself had attempted to contact officials but had been ignored. What was going on beyond those walls? And what precise information was the Federal Bureau of Investigation seeking? This is the Hidden Room, a location that was never intended to be discovered. As soon as they entered the estate, the agents began searching through Hackman's possessions, which included decades' worth of cinema memorabilia, scripts, and awards. They weren't come to learn about the history of Hollywood. Rather, they were seeking something that was far more unsettling. After spending a significant amount of time searching the estate, the detectives came across something that had no business being there. There is a hidden entryway that is concealed behind a bookcase in one of the rooms located at the back of the house. The entrance was locked with iron locks and sealed shut, giving the impression that whatever was contained there was intended to remain buried beneath the ground. The authorities were ultimately able to force their way inside, and when they did, they saw something that left them speechless beyond imagination. The unsettling finding awaiting you inside. The chamber was pitch black, icy, and hauntingly devoid of any objects. The air was filled with dust, which eventually settled on what looked to be an ancient wooden desk that was covered in stacks of paperwork. On the opposite side of the room, there was a collection of pictures that lined the walls. These photographs depicted individuals who no one recognized, and some of them appeared to have disappeared several decades before. One of the metal file cabinets was located in the middle of the room, and all of its drawers were secured with padlocks. Without delay, operatives from the FBI began the process of cutting them open. When they opened the door, they discovered secret documents that were categorized as confidential. Some of the documents seemed to be government records from the 1970s and 1980s. There was a collection of handwritten letters that were written by Hackman himself. These letters had hints about a secret that he had been attempting to disclose for years. Additionally, there were comprehensive blueprints of underground constructions, many of which did not appear to be part of Hackman's land. While the agents were going through the material, they came upon a revelation that completely halted their processes. They discovered a solitary paper that was yellowed and had a bold stamp across the top. It was hidden inside a manila envelope that had become worn out and was located at the very bottom of the cabinet. Eyes only. National security threat was where it was written. Was Gene Hackman excessively knowledgeable? Suddenly, Hackman's tranquil and secluded way of life did not appear to be as innocent as it had been before. What is it that a Hollywood star could have known that was so hazardous that it took a raid by the FBI to unearth it? An additional peculiar aspect of the situation drew the notice of the agents as they continued their search. A little black notepad was concealed among the piles of papers that were stacked up. Hackman had scrawled enigmatic notes, doodles, and coded messages that spanned hundreds of pages within the box. Written in unsteady handwriting were phrases such as, "They are always listening," and "The tunnels connect further than I thought," as well as dates and coordinates that led to areas that were not in the state of New Mexico. There was a strong impression that Hackman had been looking into something that was much more significant than himself. But more significantly, had he gone too near to the truth? What are the implications of this concerning the unusual occurrence of his demise, when the public was gradually becoming aware of the raids conducted by the FBI? An even more surprising outcome occurred. A few days later, it was revealed that Gene Hackman had passed away. It was hard to overlook the timing of his death, even though the official version stated that he had gone away owing to natural complications. Did the 94-year-old actor lose his composure as a result of the stress caused by the inquiry being conducted by the FBI, or had he been silenced? The reasons behind the FBI's refusal to comment from the moment of the discovery. Federal authorities have maintained an eerie silence over the specifics of what they discovered inside Hackman's property. The petitions for access to public records have been turned down. As of late, members of Hackman's family, who had previously been open and forthcoming about his life, have suddenly become reticent, and those who were closest to him are refusing to answer inquiries. To what extent might anything be considered so sensitive that it needs to be concealed from the general public? It is not possible to ignore these theories. As a result of the government's refusal to disclose such information, the general public has been left to conjecture. The following is a list of the most prominent hypotheses concerning the findings of the FBI and the possible reason for Hackman's demise. FBI's reasoning. Since retiring from the public eye, Gene Hackman, a legendary figure in the world of Hollywood and a winner of 2 Academy Awards, has been leading a peaceful life in New Mexico. However, the FBI conducted a raid on his residence on a fateful day. Several unsettling issues are raised as a result of what they discovered within. For several days, Hackman, his wife, and a doll that remained a mystery had all been found dead. The news that Hackman had passed away just a few days later came as a shock to the entire humanity. However, what took place? Was it merely a string of unrelated occurrences, or was there a more significant secret that was being concealed? This article will discuss 3 of the most prominent hypotheses concerning the unexplained death of Gene Hackman. It has been established via the collection of documents from Hackman's archives that he researched a covert tunnel system that was located beneath his estate. There is evidence in the form of ancient paintings and maps that these tunnels reached extremely far beyond the bounds of his domain. Consequently, this gives rise to a significant question. To what destination do these tunnels lead? And are they associated with a covert government project? During his inspection of subsurface structures, it has been hypothesized that Hackman made an unintended discovery of something that he ought not to have found. Was it evidence of a plan that was kept a secret? Alternatively, has Hackman discovered a previously unknown historical fact? Following the investigation of Hackman's residence by the FBI, they discovered a cryptic black notebook. All of the clues, including cryptic symbols and notes on obscure occurrences, pointed to the possibility that Hackman was looking for a sinister truth. But what is perhaps more unsettling is the fact that some of the notes appear to have some connection to the history of Hollywood. Is it possible that Hackman has uncovered a new and previously unknown secret regarding the entertainment industry? A stunning secret that had been buried in the past? Or was he looking for clues to uncover it? The death of Gene Hackman occurred only a few days after the FBI visited his residence. Because of the synchronicity, several doubts were raised. Had his passing been a natural occurrence, or had someone taken measures to ensure that he was never allowed to disclose what he had found? The Federal Bureau of Inquiry, FBI, declined to release any more information on the inquiry. The records that were gathered from Hackman's residence remained classified, and the government did not issue an official statement. His passing transpired to become one of the most puzzling occurrences in the annals of Hollywood history. What exactly was it that Gene Hackman brought to light? Was he killed by a power that was unknown to him? What was the reason for the FBI's deep interest in his estate? Perhaps most crucially, why did Hackman's children fail to check on him in the years preceding his passing instead of doing so? Undoubtedly, the investigation into the situation is not yet complete. The truth is still cloaked in mystery, and it may never be known. The mysterious family secrets are revealed, leaving a legend alone. But why is that? Among the most talented performers in Hollywood, Gene Hackman was a legend, a guy whose presence on TV was so revered that it gained respect. Despite this, as he reached his later years, he retreated from the public eye and settled down in Santa Fe, New Mexico, to lead a tranquil life. The fact that his children, despite his renowned career and fortune, never seemed to check in on him is the most uncomfortable aspect of his situation. However, his retirement is not the most worrisome aspect of his situation. As people all around the world expressed their sorrow at his demise, one question began to reverberate more loudly than the others. Why was Gene Hackman allowed to spend his final days in seclusion? Where were his children? And why did they not intervene? One family that never turned around to look back. 3 of Hackman's children were born. Leslie, Christopher, and Elizabeth Hackman are the Hackmans. They lived quiet lives away from the profession that made their father a household name, in contrast to their father, who stepped away from the spotlight of Hollywood and remained in the background. What is peculiar, however, is the fact that they were practically never seen in public presence with him. In contrast to other famous families, in which children are frequently seen attending events to show their support for their parents, the Hackman children were almost certainly not there during their father's final years. Even though his health was deteriorating and he was well into his 90s, it appeared that his children were never around and never present. Why was there a disagreement that nobody knew about? Did Gene drive them away, or was there something more profound? Something that was buried in the shadows of his past? As Hackman approached his latter years, he had successfully established a life of utter seclusion for himself. When he was getting older, he did not have a significant public support system. He did not have family reunions, and he did not have any children at his side. In addition, his children did not issue any remarks on the occasion of the announcement of his passing. The absence of a public homage, an emotional message about the loss of a parent, and anecdotes of fond recollections gave the impression that he had already been forgotten for a considerable amount of time before his passing. Was there a relationship that had been broken? It has been suggested by many who are close to Hackman that his family was never actually close. According to the reports, his connection with his children began to deteriorate when he divorced his first wife, Faye Maltese, in the year 1986. To what extent did the divorce result in a rift that was never able to be healed? Could it be that Hackman's commitment to his job in Hollywood came at the expense of his relationships with his family? According to allegations made by friends, Hackman had already been emotionally distant from his children before his retirement. Many believe that he was only a private individual who disliked relationships. It is the belief of several individuals that there existed a rift that was never discussed. If this is the case, the issue that arises is, who was the first to keep their distance, Gene or his children? A man who never turned around to look back. For one thing, Hackman did not appear to pursue romantic relationships. Although he had retired from acting and his health was deteriorating, he did not make any effort to come back into public contact with his children. After spending his whole life in the public eye, others feel that he just desired to be removed from the spotlight. Some others believe that he had regrets, but that he believed it was too late to make things right. Moreover, there is an option that is much more unsettling. If there was something that prevented his children from coming, what would it be? Did his children have any knowledge that we did not have? Following the revelation of further information following his death, several individuals began to wonder whether Hackman's children were avoiding him for a specific reason. Could it be that there was something about his existence, something about his history, that caused them to desire to maintain their distance from him? Is it possible that they discovered anything about their father that caused a shift in their perspective of him? Was there a problem that had been going on for a long time but was kept from the public that caused their relationship to become irreparably damaged? Alternately, were they just disinterested in reuniting with one another, opting to pursue their ways away from the influence of their father? There is one fact that cannot be refuted, but the truth continues to elude us. During his latter years, Gene Hackman, one of the most famous actors in Hollywood, lived by himself. What happened to his children? Neither of them ever returned. It is a sad reality that even the most successful, the most recognized, and the most talented people can find themselves alone in the end. The passing of Gene Hackman signals the end of an era, but it also leaves behind an unpleasant fact. Over several decades, he delivered performances that will be remembered for generations to come. Nevertheless, when he required someone to check on him, no one was there. His children's lack of response simply serves to further elucidate the enigma. Did they simply not show up, or was there something more sinister that was preventing them from coming? We may never know the true answer, since only they know it. What is the deal with the tunnels that are located below the estate that Gene Hackman owns? It left the authorities speechless. There are tunnels. Gene Hackman was a man whose presence on screen commanded respect and adoration for many years, and he established a reputation as a famous actor throughout that time. But lying beneath the foundation of his magnificent estate in New Mexico was something that was far more sinister and strange than one might expect. Something that not even the most devoted fans could have anticipated at any point in time. An unanticipated estate inspection resulted in the discovery of a network of subterranean tunnels, which prompted the local authorities to initiate an investigation into the matter. The revelations that they discovered beneath the opulent home left them feeling shaken to their very core. The underground passageways were filled with layers of dust, an eerie calm, and an unnerving vibe. It seemed as if the tunnels had been waiting on their own for decades without being disturbed. There are a million questions that arise from the fact that the tunnels exist. Who was responsible for their construction? What was the purpose of installing them? And why was this complex underground network unknown, even to those who were closest to Hackman? As the detectives proceeded farther into the shadows, the discoveries they made only served to add more mystery to the situation. The insane things that are found within the tunnels. The first thing that the authorities observed was the peculiar position of the artifacts that were contained within the tunnels. This underground maze appeared to serve a function, but no one could quite put their finger on what that purpose was. It was not only a storage facility. There were boxes upon crates of unknown materials along the walls. Some of the crates were marked with mysterious symbols, while others appeared to have been kept untouched for decades. It was the sight of what they saw that caused their stomachs to turn when they pried open the first several. There were heaps of old letters and newspapers within, many of which dated back more than half a century. Some of the letters included alarming warnings and messages that hinted at something being concealed. There was a collection of maps and blueprints that detailed the routes beneath the mansion, indicating that the tunnels connected to more than just Hackman's property. Additionally, there were personal belongings that did not appear to belong to Hackman at all, such as old suitcases, worn-out shoes, and faded Polaroids of unknown people. Who were these people, and why were their items buried beneath his home? Then, as they proceeded with their exploration, they came across something that caused their blood to become ice cold. At the very end of the tunnel, after passing through a hefty iron door that required many hours of brute force to open, they entered a chamber that was tiny and barely illuminated. Within the room, there were seats placed in a perfect circle, with each chair facing the center of the room. Ancient markings had been etched into the stone and affixed to the walls. The significance of these symbols was unclear. Those who were conducting the investigation characterized the mood as being oppressive, as if the air itself held the burden of secrets that were never intended to be revealed. When one of the agents saw anything written on the wall, it was said that they became more pallid. They declined to comment on what it stated when they were questioned about it at a later time. Could this have been a means of escape, or was it something more sinister? One of the initial hypotheses that the investigators considered was that the tunnel system was constructed as a means of escape, a covert channel that was intended to provide protection. It is not unheard of for this to occur. Hidden exits are constructed into the residences of a great number of celebrities, particularly those who own big estates. However, as they continued to unearth additional information, this idea began to come apart more and more. If this was only a means of evasion, then why were their rooms furnished with chairs set in an arrangement that gave the impression of being some kind of gathering place? What was the reason for the presence of personal items and documentation belonging to individuals who appeared to have no link to Hackman? Many hypothesized that the tunnels may have been utilized as a place of concealment, potentially during times of conflict or for engaging in covert transactions. Some individuals went even further and said that something much more sinister had occurred beneath Hackman's residence. Something was very clear. Certainly, this was not your typical corridor. Hackman's secret life. How did he come to know? Gene Hackman was a man who respected his solitude. His preference was to live a tranquil life away from the spotlight, in contrast to the majority of Hollywood superstars. Following his retirement from the performing industry, he relocated to Santa Fe, New Mexico, a location that provided him with the opportunity to live a tranquil life, free from the prying eyes of the media. However, as a result of this revelation, many people have begun to question the extent to which he knew about his own house. Is it possible that he discovered the tunnels at some time during his ownership of the property? Could it be that he was aware of their presence but chose to conceal it from others? To make matters even worse, was he using them for a purpose that the entire world was never intended to learn about? Former members of the staff have said that Hackman only sometimes permitted workers to be close to particular portions of the residence. There are even others who assert that weird sounds might be heard coming from the basement of the estate on occasion. The rumors, on the other hand, were usually dismissed as being merely imaginative. At this point, the same murmurs are starting to sound like warnings that ought to have been taken carefully. The suspicious lack of comment from the authority. The fact that police enforcement has been completely silent during this entire mystery is maybe the most unsettling aspect of it all. After the first finding, the Federal Bureau of Investigation was contacted to conduct additional investigations. On the other hand, after conducting a cursory search of the tunnels, they abruptly stopped providing any public updates. There has been no official explanation either for what was discovered inside or for the reason that the investigation was closed down so soon. This has resulted in improbable conjecture. Was there something contained within the tunnels that was so unsettling that the authorities are making a concerted effort to conceal it? Did they come across anything that may potentially shake the very foundations of history, such as classified documents or secret records? Or was it something that defies rational explanation? something that falls into the realm of the supernatural? What is certain is one thing. The public does not accept quiet. People are becoming more convinced that what lies beneath Hackman's estate is much more than simply an ancient tunnel system, as the authorities continue to refuse to comment on the matter. Questions that remain unanswered and theories. As people all across the world continue to guess, some important possibilities have surfaced. 1. They were utilized for covert activities within the tunnels. Certain individuals think that Hackman's home may have, at one point, served as a venue for clandestine government operations or clandestine gatherings. The bizarre records that were discovered in the tunnels may be relics of something far larger than we are currently aware of. Secondly, they served as a location of concealment for something or someone. To what extent may the tunnels have served as a haven for individuals who were attempting to flee from a potentially hazardous situation? Were the old luggage and other personal possessions that some of the people who had previously taken refuge there had left behind? Third, they were a part of something supernatural. Some people have concluded that the tunnels may have some connection to occult activities or supernatural occurrences due to the presence of frightening symbols, the peculiar arrangement of the underground chambers, and the disturbing atmosphere that has been experienced by individuals doing the investigation. 4. Gene Hackman was far more knowledgeable than he let on. Was Hackman aware of the tunnels and the contents that were contained within them? To what extent was he guarding a secret that only he could comprehend? One thing is unmistakable. As our investigation into this enigma continues, we find that more questions are raised. The doubts. Everything is different now that the FBI has made a terrifying discovery about Gene Hackman's wife. In addition to his cherished wife, Betsy Arakawa, the world was stunned by the unexplained circumstances surrounding the death of the renowned actor Gene Hackman, who was known for his spectacular performances and his famous parts. Fans and detectives alike are left with a plethora of concerns after their lifeless bodies were discovered at their home in New Mexico under mysterious circumstances. Evidence and suggestions of a long-concealed secret were discovered by the FBI. There is a whirling mixture of mystery, sadness, and odd facts that demand a closer study into both their background and their final moments. The narrative of their terrible conclusion is a story that is filled with all of these things, regarding the unsettling particulars and the mysterious discovery. An incident that started as a normal maintenance check on February 26th turned out to be one of the most puzzling crime scenes in recent memory. 2 maintenance workers came to the Santa Fe house owned by Gene Hackman, intending to do routine repairs. However, they were greeted by an unsettling quiet and found the front entrance unlocked, despite their expectations. The scene within provided a gloomy image of the situation. Betsy Arakawa, who was 65 years old at the time, was found in the toilet, while Gene Hackman, who was 95 years old, was located in a tiny room close to the rear door. His cane and sunglasses were left nearby. In what appeared to be a hasty manner, her corpse was found lying next to a countertop, where pills were thrown around, and an open bottle of prescription medication was found. Another piece of bewildering evidence was a space heater that had been knocked down and was lying on the ground close to the body. Although the authorities first suspected carbon monoxide poisoning, which is a significant and common hazard, the gas lines were investigated, and it was discovered that they were completely safe. This was something that the investigators have highlighted. In addition, it seemed as though the bones of the pair had been subjected to a degree of dehydration and drying out, which indicated that the couple had passed away sometime before their demise was discovered. The fact that there were 3 pets made the situation much more perplexing. 2 of them were observed walking about outside in a state of confusion, and the fact that one of them was discovered dead inside a crate suggested that they had been neglected for an extended length of time or that they had suddenly fallen out of their feeding patterns. Several factors, including the dispersed drugs, the uncomfortable open door, and the missing pet, contributed to the fact that there were more questions than answers. Could you please tell me who or what was responsible for causing such a mess? Their death have been the subjects of several unanswered questions and speculations. Investigators and fans alike are straining at the data in an attempt to find a glimpse of a broader reality in the case of Gene Hackman and Betsy Arakawa, which has become a magnet for hypotheses. On the surface, natural causes could appear to be a credible explanation for someone like Hackman, who is 95 years old. The fact that his wife, who was just 65 years old at the time, was discovered in such a vulnerable situation makes any straightforward judgment more difficult to reach. A terrible accident that was taken to an extreme. The outcome of an unexpected medical emergency or something more nefarious might have been the cause of the incident. An important idea revolves around the dispersed drugs that were discovered close to Betsy's body. An overdose or the hasty actions of someone who is undergoing a severe health crisis are both possibilities that are suggested by the fact that the prescription bottle is open and that there is a mess of pills on the countertop. It is possible that a sudden event, such as a heart attack, stroke, or severe allergic response, might have prompted a frantic search for comfort through the use of self-medication. This is a theory that is held by some individuals. An alternative theory is that one of the individuals may have taken drugs on purpose, intending to achieve a certain goal, so causing the other to experience a sense of disbelief and hopelessness, which may have ultimately led to the terrible outcome of both of their lives. Another prevalent assumption originates from earlier evaluations that suggested the possibility of carbon monoxide poisoning, which is a form of poisoning that is not immediately apparent and may leave little signs of trauma. On the other hand, this notion was disproved by the findings of the exhaustive inspections conducted by the local gas companies and the fire officials, who discovered no leak or any other connected threat. However, until the results of the autopsy and toxicology report are determined, it is not possible to completely rule out the possibility of residual hazardous vapors. An additional element of intrigue has been added to the situation by the finding of a monthly planner as well as 2 green cell phones. These artifacts provide the impression that the pair may have been keeping track of appointments, events, or even hidden plans. They also give the impression that the couple's life on the remote property may have had components that were unknown to even their closest friends and acquaintances. What do you think really happened to Gene Hackman? Did he accidentally uncover a dangerous secret, or was there a force at work? Was this a massive cover-up, or just a haunting coincidence? And why is the FBI keeping all the information under wraps? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. We would love to hear from you. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more interesting updates. Thank you, and see you in the next videos.